The night was dark, quiet, and heavy with tension. It was April 18, 1775, and the city of Boston sat restless under the watchful eyes of British soldiers. The colonies had endured years of unfair taxes, humiliations, and the iron grip of the crown. Whispers of rebellion filled taverns and homes, but no one knew when the first spark of open war would ignite. That night, the spark came from the flicker of 2 lanterns in a church tower, and the pounding hooves of a rider named Paul Revere. The British Army, stationed in Boston, had grown uneasy. They knew the colonists were preparing for resistance, stockpiling weapons in Concord, just 20 miles away. Orders were given: march secretly under the cover of night, seize the weapons, and capture colonial leaders John Hancock and Samuel Adams. If the British succeeded, the revolution might be crushed before it truly began. But the colonists had their own network of spies. Paul Revere, a silversmith by trade and a patriot by heart, was one of them. He learned of the British plan and knew the colonies had only one chance: warn the countryside before it was too late. Paul and his fellow patriots devised a code. If the British marched out by land, 1 lantern would shine from the steeple of the Old North Church. If they sailed across the Charles River, 2 lanterns would glow. That night, as shadows stretched across Boston, 2 lanterns flickered in the darkness. The message was clear: the British are coming by sea. It was a signal that would change history. Paul Revere mounted his horse. The streets were silent, but his heart raced. He knew capture meant death, or worse, the failure of the revolution before it even began. He rode out swiftly, crossing the moonlit countryside, calling out to every farmhouse and village, "The regulars are coming out!" Contrary to the myth, he never shouted, "The British are coming," because most colonists already considered themselves British. But his warning was urgent and clear. One by one, sleepy households stirred. Doors opened, men grabbed muskets, bells rang in churches, drums sounded in villages. The countryside was awakening. Paul wasn't alone for long. Other patriots, William Dawes and later Dr. Samuel Prescott, joined in the midnight alarm. Together, they spread out across the roads, covering more ground, carrying the message that the British troops were on the march. Each rider risked arrest, even death, yet they pressed on. Their mission wasn't just to warn leaders, but to rally militias, ordinary farmers, blacksmiths, and shopkeepers, who would be ready to face one of the world's strongest armies. The ride was far from safe. British patrols lurked on the roads, determined to stop the messengers. At one point, Revere was captured by a British officer. With a pistol at his chest, he was interrogated. But fate was on his side. Before long, Revere was released, though his horse was taken. Still, by then, his warning had already reached far and wide. Samuel Prescott managed to escape into the woods, continuing the ride and spreading the alarm even further. By the time the British troops reached Lexington at sunrise, they found something unexpected: colonial militias standing ready. Muskets in hand, faces stern, they refused to be intimidated. Shots rang out, the shot heard round the world. The first battle of the American Revolution had begun, and it was Paul Revere's midnight ride that ensured the colonists were prepared. Paul Revere's ride lasted only a few hours, yet its impact has lasted for centuries. His courage, and the courage of Dawes, Prescott, and countless unnamed patriots, proved that the voice of freedom could not be silenced. It was not just the gallop of a horse through the night. It was the beating heart of a nation, demanding its right to exist, to be free, to govern itself. History often turns on small acts of bravery. Paul Revere was just one man, a silversmith, an ordinary citizen. Yet his midnight ride became extraordinary because he chose to act. He risked everything so others could stand ready when freedom called. The lesson is timeless. One voice, one warning, one act of courage can awaken a people, protect a future, and change the course of history. And so, on that fateful April night, As the lanterns glowed in Boston and the hoofbeats echoed across the countryside, the American Revolution found its breath. A silversmith's courage lit the path to independence.